Did you know stress doesn't just make you tired? It quietly, steadily wears you down. It shows up in your skin, in your joints, in your sleep, and most dangerously, in your mind. The real villain? Cortisol, the stress hormone your body produces when it feels under threat. And when it stays high for too long, it doesn't just damage your health. It speeds up how you age. But here's the part no one tells you. Stress doesn't come from the outside world. It comes from how you meet it. It's not the noise around you, it's the storm within. So right now, take one full breath. Not shallow. Deep. Into your belly. Slow down. Because in the next few moments, you're going to learn how to reclaim your mind before it quietly turns your body against you. 1. Take a breath. Take the power back. Let's stop calling it just stress. Because stress isn't just something that happens to you. It's not some harmless tension in your shoulders or a bit of pressure before a deadline. Stress is a slow-killing, body-rotting, soul-draining biochemical betrayal, one you allow, one you feed, and one you can stop. Every time you let frustration drive your words. Every time you swallow resentment and smile through clenched teeth. Every time you obsess over the future or replay the past. You're not just mentally tired, you're biologically under attack. You're triggering cortisol, the hormone that turns your body into its own enemy. It breaks down your muscles. It weakens your immune system. It steals your sleep, crashes your testosterone, accelerates aging, and clouds your thinking. The truth is brutal. You don't grow older because of time. You grow older because of how you respond to it. Now here's what no one tells you. You don't have to live like this. You don't have to be the guy who breaks silently under the pressure. You don't have to white-knuckle your way through life, waiting for a weekend or a vacation to finally breathe. You don't have to keep sprinting through burnout while pretending it's ambition. Because you can reclaim your mind. And when you reclaim your mind, you reclaim your body, your clarity, your life. Stoic philosophy wasn't designed for people sitting under trees, writing poetry. It was built for warriors, emperors, soldiers, men who faced chaos and death, and still found peace inside their own heads. Marcus Aurelius led armies and ruled an empire, yet he wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. You may not be on a battlefield, but you're in one every day, in your mind. And the way out starts with this. Backhand index pointing right, breathe. Deliberately. Deeply. Right now. Not the weak breath of a tired man, but the grounded inhale of someone who's waking up to who he really is. Let your body soften. Let your thoughts slow. This is not weakness. This is war, but on your terms. This breath, it's not just oxygen. It's a signal. It tells your nervous system, I'm not running. I'm not reacting. I'm in command now. It's the exact opposite of panic. It's the opposite of submission. This is the first breath of someone who remembers. I am not my stress. I am not my reaction. I am not my fear. And from here, you begin to rebuild. Stronger. Wiser. Sharper. Calmer. Stress doesn't own you. But it will if you refuse to own your response. So take a breath. Not just to feel better, but to be better. This is your baseline. Your return point. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Right now. 2. The power of the pause. And once you've taken that first breath, the kind that reminds you you're no longer a passenger, comes the next moment. The response. Or more precisely, your power to not respond immediately. Because while most people react, the men who rise will pause. In today's world, people wear their rage like a badge. Short tempers, instant outrage, emotional outbursts, all celebrated like proof of passion. But ask yourself this. What kind of strength loses control when things don't go its way? There's a reason you respect the man who doesn't flinch. There's a reason the quiet, composed man commands more presence than the one who's always yelling. There's a reason warriors train to slow their breath before they draw their blade. Impulse is a child's reaction. Discipline is a man's choice. You might think that quick reactions are necessary, that they are a sign you're sharp, fast, decisive. But in truth, it's not reactivity that makes you powerful. It's restraint. And this isn't about suppression or emotional numbness. This is about choosing to act from clarity, not chaos. When your nervous system is hijacked by stress, your mind loses its edge. You say things you don't mean. You make decisions that cost you later. You become the version of yourself you regret, not respect. Let's be honest. You've been that guy before. We all have. But here's what separates the man who stays stuck and the man who grows. 1 second. 1 breath. 1 pause. That pause is everything. It's where emotional intelligence is forged. It's where you disrupt decades of conditioning. It's where your old self ends and your new self begins. Because in that second, you stop reacting to the world and start responding to it. From within. On purpose. With presence. This is the foundation of the Stoic mindset. Not cold indifference, but controlled awareness. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they weren't just philosophers. They were men who trained their minds harder than most train their bodies. They understood something society still forgets. A man who doesn't control his reactions is a man who is controlled. And there is no peace and no freedom in being a puppet to your own emotions. So here's your challenge right now. Next time something triggers you, someone disrespects you, traffic builds, deadlines crush down, feel the heat rise, and don't move. Don't explain. Don't lash out. Don't respond right away. Just pause. Let the moment burn. Let your breath deepen. Let your inner stillness rise like steel from the ground up. Because the longer you wait before reacting, the clearer you become. The calmer your nervous system gets. The more control you reclaim from your biology, your past, and your conditioning. And over time, that 1 second pause becomes your signature strength. It separates you from the crowd. It keeps your mind sharp, your body young, and your presence unforgettable. This is not weakness. This is emotional warfare, and you're winning it without making a sound. So pause. Not because you're unsure, but because you're in command. You don't need to prove your strength through volume. You prove it by choosing silence when noise is the easy option. By choosing clarity when chaos begs for your attention. This is the new definition of masculine power. Not to conquer others, but to conquer the urge to overreact. And when you can do that, consistently, you're not just surviving stress anymore. You're rewriting your identity. 3. Holding on to resentment is the surest way to age quickly. And when you learn to pause, when you choose to own your response instead of handing it away, you unlock something deeper. You don't just manage stress. You start to see what's feeding it. And one of the most toxic, most quietly corrosive sources? Resentment. That silent grudge you carry in your chest. The arguments you replay in your head long after they've ended. The betrayal you never fully spoke about, but never fully let go of. Holding on to resentment feels righteous at first. It feels powerful, like you're protecting yourself. But over time, it becomes a prison. One where you're both the inmate and the warden. You see, the body doesn't care if your anger is old or new. It responds the same way, every time. It triggers the stress response. Floods you with cortisol. Tenses your muscles. Keeps you alert, inflamed, and always on edge. And that constant vigilance? It's not protecting you. It's aging you. Chronic resentment doesn't just live in your mind. It lives in your gut, your skin, your immune system, your sleep cycles, your face. Wrinkles deepen. Testosterone drops. Recovery slows. You get sick more often. You wake up tired even after sleeping. You think you're winning by holding the grudge. But the grudge is the one holding you. The Stoics understood this. They didn't believe in blind forgiveness. They believed in freedom. And as long as you're tied to someone else's behavior, you're not free. You're still letting them dictate how you feel, how you react, and how your body operates. So let's get real. That anger you're holding on to? It's not hurting them. It's hurting you. It's keeping you locked in a mental loop where your past keeps rewriting your present. And if you want clarity, if you want strength, if you want longevity, you need to release it. Not for them. For you. Because forgiveness isn't approval. It's closure. It's not saying what they did was okay. It's saying you're done bleeding from it. This doesn't mean you forget. It means you no longer identify with the wound. You extract the lesson, and you let go of the poison. When you do that, something changes. Your nervous system begins to relax. Your body starts to heal. Your mind opens back up. You reclaim bandwidth, creativity, clarity, and peace. That's not softness. That's self-mastery. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Carrying resentment makes you feel strong at first. But real strength is in walking away from what no longer serves your evolution. You don't owe anyone your energy. You don't owe anyone your outrage. You owe yourself the freedom to move forward. So here's the challenge. Take a look at the grudges you've been silently carrying. The people, the moments, the betrayals, whatever haunts your mind at 2 a.m. Ask yourself, am I still giving this power over my health? Over my mind? Over my future? And if the answer is yes, it's time to put it down. Let your body rest. Let your heart clear. Let your nervous system shift from fight to flow. Because every ounce of energy you spend on resentment is energy stolen from your mission, your vision, and your vitality. You deserve better. And better begins with release. Not as weakness, but as warrior wisdom. 4. Comparing yourself to others is poisoning your own youth. And once you've put down the weight of resentment, once you've released what others have done to you, you might think the hardest part is over. But there's another toxin. One that doesn't come from the past, but from every passing moment you measure your life against someone else's. Comparison. It's quiet. It feels harmless at first. Sometimes it even looks productive, like motivation. But make no mistake. Every time you compare, you poison your sense of worth. Every time you envy, you tell your nervous system, I'm behind. I'm lacking. I'm not enough. And your body listens. It responds. With stress. With self-doubt. With a chemical message, survival mode engaged. You lose sleep. You lose focus. You lose your center. And here's the twist. Most of the time, you're not even comparing reality. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Their curated life. Their filtered victories. Their polished image that hides the same battles you're fighting. You start to chase things you don't even want, just because someone else has them. You confuse success with noise. You measure your path with someone else's map. That's not ambition. That's emotional sabotage dressed in the clothes of drive. The Stoics had no social media. No trending metrics. But they understood this better than we do. Marcus Aurelius wrote, each of us lives only now, this brief instant. The rest has been lived already, or is impossible to see. Comparison robs you of that brief instant. It hijacks your ability to be present with your own life. And without presence, there is no peace. There is no power. There is no youth, no vitality, only a dull ache of always chasing, never arriving. Because the real damage of comparison isn't external. It's internal corrosion. It whispers that you're always behind. It kills joy before it forms. It makes you a stranger in your own life. Let's be clear. There is no version of you that becomes more powerful by constantly looking sideways. Greatness comes from depth, not breadth. From knowing your path and walking it with fierce clarity. So here's the question that cuts through the fog. Are you learning from others or losing yourself in them? Because the mind trained by Stoic discipline doesn't scroll endlessly. It reflects. It chooses wisely what to absorb and what to discard. It knows that the only life that matters is your own, lived deliberately. If you want your youth back, if you want clarity, presence, and inner power, you don't need more motivation. You need boundaries around what enters your mind. Start simple. The next time you catch yourself comparing, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this helping me grow or quietly draining me? Reclaim that energy. Reinvest it in your mission, in your craft, in your self-respect. Because no matter how fast the world spins, a grounded man doesn't measure his worth by where others stand. He builds. He sharpens. He grows with eyes forward, not sideways. And that's how you stay young. Not by chasing time, but by owning your mind. 5. You can't sleep because you don't let go of stress. And once you stop comparing yourself to others, once you return to your own lane, your own rhythm, you'll notice something strange. Even with less resentment, even with fewer comparisons, you're still restless. You lie down at night, exhausted but wired. Your body in bed, but your mind still in the boardroom, the inbox, the argument, the deadline. You're trying to sleep, but your brain is playing catch-up on everything you didn't process during the day. And the truth is brutal. You don't sleep poorly because you're broken. You sleep poorly because you never mentally stopped. Most people carry their entire day into bed like a duffel bag full of bricks. Emails, tension, regret, unsaid words, decisions left hanging. And they wonder why their nervous system can't calm down. Sleep isn't just physical. It's psychological surrender. It's your mind saying, the day is over. I'm safe now. I can let go. But for high-performing men, the ones who carry weight, who lead, who grind, letting go often feels unnatural. You've been trained to push through, not power down. To grind it out, not ground yourself. To succeed at all costs, even if the cost is sleep, recovery, and inner peace. But here's the reality. A man who cannot detach from the day will age before his time. Because when your nervous system never resets, your body doesn't heal. Testosterone doesn't optimize. Muscles don't repair. Cortisol lingers. Your mind races. And slowly, your edge dulls. It's not just about getting more sleep. It's about creating a ritual, a deliberate off-ramp from chaos to calm. It's about ending the day like a Stoic would, with reflection, detachment, and peace. Seneca once wrote, "The mind must be given rest, it must be released from the whirlwind of daily life." You don't recover in your sleep. You recover when you let the day end. When you declare, internally and with presence, that moment is done. That decision is made. That weight is not coming into this bed. So tonight, no distractions, no scrolling, no noise. Ask yourself, what part of today am I still gripping that no longer needs my energy? What thought, fear, or unfinished business am I dragging into tomorrow's peace? Then breathe. Slow. Deep. Controlled. Let each exhale mark the close of a chapter. This is not spiritual fluff. This is nervous system discipline. You don't need melatonin. You need closure. You need to train your mind that night is not a battleground, it's your sanctuary. Your place to regenerate. To become sharper, clearer, stronger, without effort. The man who sleeps well is not the one with fewer problems. He's the one who knows how to put those problems down when the day is done. That's real power. Because if you want to lead, build, perform, protect, you cannot be a slave to an overactive mind at 1 a.m. You cannot solve tomorrow with the same frantic energy that broke today. Let it go. Not because it's easy, but because you are done being a man who carries everything all the time. Strong men know when to hold the line, but wise men know when to release it. Sleep is not a luxury. It's a weapon. Use it like one. 6. Living too far in the future destroys your nervous system. And when you finally learn to let go of the day, when you stop dragging old stress into new sleep, you start to feel a shift. But only if you stop doing something even more dangerous. Living in a future that hasn't happened yet. You might not even realize you're doing it, but you feel it. That tension in your chest when thinking about what's next. The inability to enjoy your meal, your conversation, or even your weekend. Because your mind is already 5 days ahead, 12 emails deep, one mistake away from catastrophe. You call it planning. You call it ambition. You call it staying sharp. But what it really is anticipatory anxiety dressed up as productivity. And it's frying your nervous system. Here's the biology. Every time you imagine a worst-case scenario, your body doesn't wait for confirmation. It reacts now, as if it's real. Your heart rate spikes. Cortisol floods in. Your breathing tightens. Muscles tense. Sleep gets shallow. Focus disappears. You live in a constant state of alert for battles that haven't even happened. And you wonder why you're tired, irritable, burned out. You wonder why your mornings feel heavy before they even begin. It's because your body was already at war while you were still brushing your teeth. The Stoics said it clearly. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca. They understood what modern men forget. The future does not belong to your control. It belongs to your preparation and your presence. Every second you spend obsessing over what hasn't happened, you steal from the only thing that ever will, right now. Presence isn't about candles or chance. It's about command. It's about being so dialed into this moment that you become unshakable, no matter what the next one holds. Because here's what high-achieving men get wrong. They think presence is passivity. That letting go of the future means letting go of drive. But it's the opposite. Presence sharpens your power. It makes you faster, clearer, calmer, because you're not burning energy on ghosts. When your nervous system feels safe, your mind becomes lethal. Not emotional, strategic. Not anxious, aware. And that's where your edge is reborn. So how do you start? You stop rehearsing disaster. You stop time traveling in your head to scenarios you can't influence. You anchor yourself, breath by breath, to what's actually real. Not what might happen. Not what you fear. But what's right here, right now. You say to yourself, this moment is enough. This action is all I can give. The rest will meet me when it's time. This is not weakness. This is clarity. This is what builds trust within yourself. Because when your nervous system learns that the present is safe, that it doesn't have to live on edge, your body recalibrates. Your stress drops. Your focus increases. Your aging slows. Your mind gets quieter. And when you finally meet the future, you do so from a place of strength, not survival. You walk into tomorrow without dragging the baggage of imagined pain. Because you've trained yourself to respond to reality, not fear. And that, more than any goal, more than any metric, more than any hustle, is the definition of power. 7. Not setting boundaries means letting stress invade every corner of your life. And once you learn to stay grounded in the present, to stop rehearsing chaos that hasn't happened, you gain something rare in modern life: inner space. But make no mistake, that space will be violated, overrun, and consumed if you don't protect it. Because presence without boundaries is like a fortress with no walls. And in today's world, if you don't define your edges, everything will try to own a piece of you. Your phone, your clients, your boss, your partner, even your own thoughts. We live in a culture that glamorizes availability. Always open, always reachable, always responsive. But when everything has access to you, you begin to lose access to yourself. Your mornings become reactive. Your energy is split. Your attention leaks. You start to say yes out of guilt. You stop saying no out of fear. And before you realize it, you're not living your life anymore. You're just managing everyone else's. That's not responsibility. That's self-abandonment. The Stoics understood that discipline doesn't just come from within. It must be protected from without. They believed in drawing clear lines. Not out of arrogance, but from principle. Because here's the truth. If you don't have boundaries, you are not being kind. You are being consumed. And every time you overextend, people don't respect you more. They respect you less. Because your time seems endless. Your energy seems disposable. And your yes becomes meaningless. Boundaries are not barriers. They are definitions. They are the framework that tells the world, this is what I value. This is what I protect. This is who I am. And when you build those boundaries, your stress drops. Your clarity rises. Your respect for yourself returns. So why is it so hard? Because saying no feels selfish. Because confrontation feels dangerous. Because you were likely raised, like most men, to tolerate discomfort instead of voice your limits. But let me ask you this. Is it truly selfish to preserve your strength? So you can lead with clarity, serve with purpose, and live without resentment? Or is it selfish to give parts of yourself away? Until there's nothing left for the people who matter most, including you? A boundary is not an act of rejection. It's an act of alignment. It says, this is what I need to stay whole. It says, I don't serve you best by sacrificing myself. It says, I am not available for chaos. I am building something too important. So here's your challenge. Look at your week. Look at your calendar. Look at your inbox, your texts, your energy. Where are you leaking? Where are you saying yes to things that shrink you? Where are you allowing noise to replace stillness? Where have you outsourced your peace to people who don't even value it? Draw the line. Start small. One conversation. One reset. 1 hour reclaimed. And over time, you'll realize you don't need to escape your life to find peace. You just need to fortify it. Stress doesn't always come from doing too much. It often comes from not saying enough. So speak. Not with anger, but with precision. Not with walls, but with truth. Because the man who knows where he ends is the man who knows where his power begins. 8. Trying to control everything is a form of self-destruction you don't see coming. Once you begin to set boundaries, once you reclaim time, space, and energy from everything that once drained you, a new temptation quietly emerges. Control. You start to see how much better life feels when you say no. How clear your mind becomes when you choose where your attention goes. And then you think, if I can just tighten every screw, if I can get every piece perfectly aligned, if I can control every variable, I'll never feel stress again. But here's the trap. The more control you try to force, the more chaos you create. What starts as intention becomes obsession. What starts as order becomes anxiety. And what starts as leadership becomes silent exhaustion. Because the truth no one tells you is this: trying to control everything is the most elegant form of self-destruction. It's slow. It's quiet. It disguises itself as responsibility, as excellence, even as love. But underneath it is fear. Fear that if you don't manage every detail, something will collapse. Fear that if you don't keep every plate spinning, you'll be exposed, judged, rejected. Fear that the moment you let go, things will fall apart. And maybe they will. But here's the deeper truth. Not everything is meant to be held by you. There are things outside your reach. Outcomes you cannot predict. People you cannot fix. Timelines you cannot accelerate. And the more you resist this, the more your nervous system suffers. You stay wired, hypervigilant, tense, distracted, afraid of stillness because it means you're not in control and you've built your identity on control. But real power, stoic power, is built on a simple foundation. Distinguish between what is yours to command and what is not. Epictetus said it with brutal clarity. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. You don't get to choose the storm, but you do choose how you anchor yourself in it. You don't get to write everyone else's script, but you do get to decide your role, your tone, your pace. That's not passivity. That's wisdom. And wisdom doesn't make you weaker. It makes you precise. So the next time you feel stress rise, ask yourself, am I gripping something that was never mine to hold? Maybe it's the future. Maybe it's someone's opinion. Maybe it's the timeline you thought you had to follow. Maybe it's the idea that nothing can go wrong if you just do everything right. But here's what you need to know. Control is not the goal. Clarity is. Stability is. Resilience is. You don't need to predict everything. You need to build the kind of man who can respond to anything. And that man isn't stiff. He's fluid. He's grounded. He's free from the addiction to certainty. Let go, not because it's easy, but because gripping harder is the very thing keeping you from peace. Let go, not to be careless, but to be careful with your strength. And let go, because nothing ages you faster than trying to hold the entire world in your hands. When you stop needing control, you finally get your power back. 9. Talking too much, explaining too much drains your energy and ages you. And once you stop clinging to control, once you release the weight of needing to shape every outcome, you begin to feel a new kind of silence inside you. Not emptiness, but presence. Not apathy, but stillness. But that stillness won't last if you keep talking your energy away. Because here's the part most men miss. Words are not free. They are energy. And when you overuse them, you bankrupt your presence. We live in a world that values noise. Say more. Explain yourself. Post more. Justify. Convince. Clarify. Defend. But every time you explain yourself to someone who doesn't respect your words, you're not communicating. You're bleeding. Every unnecessary sentence is a withdrawal from your internal vault. And the more you talk, the more you hand your power to people who haven't earned it. You tell yourself it's transparency. You tell yourself it's emotional intelligence. You tell yourself it's connection. But if you're honest, most of it is fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being judged. Fear of not being liked. So you explain. And explain. And explain again. And in doing so, you give up the very presence that made your voice matter in the first place. The Stoics understood this with piercing clarity. They believed in speaking with purpose, not pressure. They knew that restraint, not noise, reveals mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's not about arrogance. It's about alignment. Because a man who's grounded in his values doesn't need to explain them constantly. A man who knows his direction doesn't broadcast it. He walks it. Quietly. Powerfully. And here's the hard truth. The more you try to explain yourself, the more people sense you're not sure of what you're saying. People don't follow clarity because of how much you say. They follow clarity because of how little you need to say. Your silence, when anchored in confidence, says more than 1,000 justifications ever could. So ask yourself, where am I using words to fill space instead of deepen presence? Where am I trying to prove instead of embody? Where am I seeking validation when I should be standing in truth? Speak with intention. Speak with precision. And then, stop. Let your actions hold the weight. Let your calm be louder than the noise. Let your stillness say what your mouth no longer needs to. Because when you protect your energy, you protect your aging, your focus, your strength, your emotional core. You stop burning life trying to explain what you've already lived. And that, more than charisma, more than cleverness, is how true presence is forged. Every word costs something. Make sure it's worth the price. 10. Stress is a choice, and Stoics choose not to take it. And once you learn to stop oversharing, once you master the discipline of saying less and meaning more, you uncover something deeper than silence. You uncover choice. The choice behind every breath. The choice beneath every emotion. The choice that exists in the split-second space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you realize the truth that few men ever fully accept. Stress is not something that happens to you. It's something you choose to engage with or walk away from. It sounds almost offensive at first. How could I be choosing this? The pressure, the deadlines, the conflict, they're not optional. And you're right, the events are not always optional. But your reaction to them is. And your body, your nervous system, your hormones, your aging clock. They don't respond to events. They respond to perception. You can be in the same meeting, the same traffic, the same financial pressure. But the difference between destruction and discipline is how you interpret what's in front of you. The Stoics knew this. They didn't deny reality. They reframed it. They didn't pretend hardships weren't real. They reminded themselves that how they react to those hardships was the only thing that mattered. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That sentence alone is the core of emotional sovereignty. It means that while the world may throw storms, you decide whether to sink or to steer. And steering begins by refusing to carry stress like a badge. Refusing to glorify being overwhelmed. Refusing to internalize every sharp word, every unmet expectation, every unknown future. This doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful. Because power is the ability to feel everything and still choose what defines you. Stress ages you because it convinces your body it's in danger. But you are not in danger. Not when your mindset is anchored. Not when your breathing is slow. Not when your perspective is sharp. So the final question becomes this. Will you keep surrendering your peace every time life challenges you? Or will you choose, moment by moment, to respond from presence instead of panic? From clarity instead of chaos? From intention instead of impulse? Because that's what Stoicism really is. Not detachment. Not coldness. Not emotionless walls. But choice. The radical, powerful, liberating choice. To not absorb everything that tries to shake you. To not accept stress as default. To not let your nervous system write your story for you. Stress is not your identity. It's not your proof of productivity. It's not your price for greatness. It's a pattern. and patterns can be broken. So choose something different. Choose breath over reaction. Choose awareness over reflex. Choose the still, sharp, grounded energy of a man who understands. This moment doesn't own me. I own my response to it. That is the mindset that keeps you young. That is the mindset that builds resilience. That is the mindset that doesn't just manage life. It leads it. Closing statement. Every thought you choose is a brick. A brick that either builds your strength or chips away at it. You are either constructing resilience or quietly collapsing beneath reaction. This is the truth. Your mind can be your strongest ally or your most silent assassin. So take the reins. Direct the thoughts. Anchor the focus. Choose the response. Because if you don't lead your mind, it will lead you straight into exhaustion, inflammation, and slow self-destruction. Be the commander, not the casualty. Your health, your clarity, your longevity. They're not found in hacks or noise. They're built thought by thought. This is where your strength begins.